welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
And I'm co-host Ness. Today, we're excited to have Kurtis back on the pod with us. It's been like 2 years. We had you on you were like one of our first guests we interviewed. It was a really good conversation, and we've been wanting to have you on for a while. So welcome back. For any new listeners, would you mind giving a brief reintroduction for yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Jay and Nessa. I'm a right after I spoke to you the first time, I retired, so everything changed. But I'm a former professional hockey player. Played for 8 years. I'm from Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. Played parts of, I guess, 6 seasons in the NHL, 52 games in the NHL, 300 and something in the minors. Um, I met these two through activism and yeah, played for the Sharks. And I think that also is another reason. And that brings me and tied into you guys here at the Bay. So that's why I'm Ontario guy talking to you California people.
California people. So what's retirement? How's retirement been treating you? How you been?
Loaded
It's
question.
been quite a
I know,
yeah,
I'm
loaded.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. That's how it's gotta go. Yeah, it's been a lot. Athletes definitely died twice. Um, I definitely thought it would be not as difficult as it's been, but then I didn't also think I'd be diagnosed with bipolar type 2. So that was definitely an interesting twist. A serious relationship ending, living in the
You told me
US, having
about
to move
that.
back to Canada, all sorts of stuff going on. So yeah, I did. I worked for a bit and then realized that I gotta kind of change it up. And I'm currently keyword trying, to go back to school online. It's been a challenge because I've been out of school for 13 years and like learning grammar and stuff, which is just like mind blowing. I don't know. But yeah, so it's been tough, but I guess the overarching theme is that I'm going through this for a reason and to just be grateful for the amazing people I have in my life, like my mom, where I'm staying right now, my stepdad, awesome friends and supportive people in spaces that are really supportive with mental health and stuff. So, yeah, looking at it positively as a lot of growth opportunities, and that's where life becomes interesting, and it's not just sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like to become a professional athlete, and then now when you're retired, when your career is over, now you kind of have to figure out what to do next. And we kind of see, like, especially at the Sharks organization, they keep bringing back, like, the guys that came in through the system. And one thing about it is they really do love this area, and it kind of just shows the fact that they have so much value and passion for the organization that they kind of come back. And then also maybe it's because all they know is kind of hockey, and then they're like, I know how to do this thing, I have a skill set for it. Maybe you can elaborate on this, like if you've similar experiences with folks that maybe you kind of keep in contact with, where they're kind of like maybe seeking out assistance through, like, hey, like a transition program. Because I mean, we don't know, but I can relate to, like, when I got out of college, I thought, oh, people told me go to college, get your degree, now go get your job. Well, I did all that, but you didn't tell me when they would lay me off, and then I would go through the recession with everyone. What now? This is like the real world. And then you've got the extra layer of, like, oh, now I'm being diagnosed with, this mental health condition. So I guess I kind of want to start out with, like, after you retired and you said you got into, you started doing the work thing, and then, like, I guess kind of the journey from that to when you started, the journey to being diagnosed.
So yeah, but there's this thought that because professional athletes are just privileged. We're just we got a lot of privilege. So you really don't really know that for sure until, like you're saying, you're in the real world. So I was living a fantasy life that's only lasts so long, and only so many guys can like not work after it or go right into the game at a high level and don't have to like start at the bottom. So yeah, but as far as the diagnosis part, yeah, it was just kind of, I would never have been diagnosed had I not had a partner who cared about me and who was really observant. I couldn't talk to a psychiatrist and tell them the truth because I wasn't aware. Couldn't see myself properly. So it took them having to come on with my psychologist for them, this psychologist, to be like, oh, didn't know that. You need to go to a psychiatrist now because you definitely got something going on. So then did that, got diagnosed immediately. Like I went into that meeting and I said, I'm not going to try to hold back. I'm just going to be myself and let it fly. And then by like 15 minutes in, I looked at her and I asked her, so do you think have something? She's like, oh yeah, you're bipolar for sure. And I was like, oh, great. I kind of already knew at that point, but yeah, but then it's such a wishy-washy thing at times because everybody goes through stuff, but it's like, some people go through it to more extremes. I've always been an extremes person, so yeah. So just very fortunate that I had a partner like that to help me and to show, kind of be that mirror to reflect back my issues or what I'm going through. And yeah, so then that was February 2023. So just been over a year and a half now, I guess. Almost year and a half.
So, after the diagnosis, if you don't mind sharing, what was kind of your mentality like coming to terms with, oh, I have this thing now that I know is making my heart a little bit more difficult than everyone else, but then also trying to figure out how to navigate your life now, knowing this is going on.
Yeah, well, classic hard-headed privileged athlete was like, oh, I'm fine. So just who I am, and we just need to be a little more careful. I just need to be more cognizant and keep good routines, which I already do. I'm already so disciplined, but you know, yeah, didn't work like that. Obviously, I'm addicted in a way to the higher feeling. That's kind of what people like we struggle with, is that we think that's normal, the hypomanic stage. So I don't get, because I'm bipolar type 2, I don't get manic, which is like for a week not sleeping. I get hypomanic, which is like instead of sleeping 7, 8 hours, I'll sleep like 5, but I have all the energy in the world. And then when I feel like crap, I'll sleep like 10 and feel like crap. So I was just trying to chase the hypomanic feeling when not being aware of that. And it got to the point where my partner just had enough and just was like, yeah, you got to try meds. So started taking lamotrigine, slowly eased that dose up. It seemed to take like a bit of the sting off the hypomanic, like a little bit. But it was still like bubbling right under the surface. So after like 9 months, I went on a different one, I think, yeah, and kind of was, since from then on, was on and off them. Just, oh, I'm fine again. No, I'm not fine again. Um, you know, um, in clinical trials, placebo is just as effective as the medication. I don't need to be on them. Oh, need to be on them again. So did that for many, many months. And now I find myself today on them for 2 weeks and just trying to stay the course.
I think I kind of want to touch on that because I feel like we've gone through some similar things in our lives recently. Different enough because I'm not diagnosed with bipolar. I have my own mental health issues
Mm-hmm.
that I go through. But like with the whole medication thing, I don't like taking medication. I'm like, I will reserve that to if I'm at a point where I know I absolutely need it. Right? Like there's absolutely no other option. So I can sympathize with you with the, I don't want to be on these meds. Like I'm fine. I can do this on my own. But and I still struggle with this. But like, how do you get to this point where you're like, okay, it's time. Like I need to be on these.
Yeah, I guess when it's just so hard to know at times because you're going through a lot in your life where if anybody was going through it, it would be pretty crappy. But then you just realize like it's just, I guess, the rumination of thoughts of just spiraling in your head. And when I meditate a lot and my whole goal is to be present, but I'm like having trouble being present and then you can't focus on things. So I guess that's a big one. When like you're not on them, you're not feeling like the good way. You're feeling so down that you're just like, this is dumb. Like, why am I putting myself through this kind of thing? Because nobody, there's not many people out there who are like, some people they're kind of don't know if they're bipolar or not, but people who are bipolar, not many can get by without some form of medication just because it's like if you're not going to take them, you're basically just signing up for like a military lifestyle to just take care of yourself on a day-to-day basis. Like it's like a Herculean task. So it's almost like the meds just make it a bit more manageable. So for me, it gets to that point where just like the kind of existential dread of just like ruminating thoughts just gets too loud in there. It just gets too much. And I'm just like, okay, probably should listen to all the psychiatrists. Do I want to wake up every day and like have to go to war with myself and to be okay? Or do I, take some assistance?
Yeah, a lot of what both of you are talking about, like, I can relate through my mental health journey. Like early on, I was in denial that I had an anxiety disorder, and I can still remember moments in the office where my social worker, whoever it was at the time, would be like point blank, like asking me a question, and then the way that I answered it. Now that I think about it, it's like wow, like I was completely in denial. Like I remember one of the questions she said, "What do you do to relax?" And I started listing out all these like high intensity activities that I would do. And she kind of looked at me and whatever she ended up saying, like, I was like, well, why would I just sit there and do nothing? Like, that makes no sense. I was pretty much like not processing that there was an issue. I was just kind of covering it up with other things, and like I've talked about my parents' divorce, and that like took it was really hard for me because my dad just kind of abandoned the family. Everyone around me kind of almost denied that it was happening. So I almost was taught to also deny that something was happening, which is not healthy. You need to be able to process it. And the way that I processed that was just continue on like nothing's wrong, but it you find really toxic coping mechanisms because your brain is like, no, there's something wrong, and you keep telling yourself there's nothing wrong until there's finally a breaking point where it's like the way that you interact in your relationships, the way that you approach things, it's like that is not healthy for you. And once I finally got that diagnosis, obviously they were like, you need to go to therapy, you need to get on medication. And I've had my own struggle with like trying to find that balance because it's not going to be a one size fits all for everybody. I had a really bad experience with the last time because I remember there was a moment I was at my friend's birthday and it was just me and her. We were waiting for other people and I was so dosed up and I almost felt like I had an out of body experience talking to her where my anxiety was gone, but I was kind of like a robot. I could not feel anything. And just the way that she looked back at me, just like, if I could cry, I would have cried in that moment. But because the meds were being so effective, I didn't even have the emotions to cry. And it was like, am I even living at this moment? So, but I also want to kind of put in the fact that there's people I know in my life where medication has worked out really well for them. I guess to come back to the conversation with your journey, I guess my question is like looking back on your your career or just like you as a person, like if you don't mind sharing any sort of like perspectives that you kind of feel like that you could see that manifesting, but as you said, it's like you almost kind of like didn't see at the time or didn't have the
Mhm.
words to say, oh, I definitely have a mental health condition.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you kind of have to go through that and thinking about it. I heard that in your voice that like you think back and think about that. For me, it's not, I don't think back to like, oh, it could have been, like, if I got help, how would it have gone? I'm more of just trying to retrospectively see just like, struggle in other areas looking back, more so just like the purpose I had in hockey. Like I just had a purpose to just wake up, be the best hockey player. It's like when you're a kid, just wake up and have fun. Ignorance is bliss, you know? So now when that ignorance has been removed, that's where I look back. But um, as far as how it affected me, like it for sure was, I was the tough guy. So everybody just, oh, he's crazy. He has to be like up and down like that and wild, because if he wasn't, how would he not fight those guys? Like how would he do that? So I think even for people around me and myself, it hit it. My job hit it. And I even had an ex who was in psychology, and her dad was a psychologist, and they sat me down one time and said, "You kind of got something," and I didn't want to hear it because I'm like, "But this is who I am. Like, how would I even play at the level I play at if I don't have this? You know, if I didn't, if I guess so, I didn't want to hear it at the time. I truly thought it was part of me, which it is, but it's not a. It's an actual, diagnosable thing. So it definitely made me. That's why if you look at the arc of my career, I went up for like a year and I went down for a year. I went up for a year and down for a year. Like I couldn't keep it consistent at the highest level in the NHL. It was always this roller coaster, which it is for any hockey player, but it was just an accentuated curve graph for me, where it was just higher highs and lower lows. So yeah, definitely affected me. Definitely affected decisions I made. Definitely affected how like hard I went at things, both on and off the ice. And it definitely not only wore down my wrist because I used it too much. That's what I ended up retiring for because of injuries to it. I just overused it. I stretched myself off the ice doing things too hard. So yeah, it definitely impacted my career, but I don't look back and say like, oh, I wish it didn't happen. Like I know it happened for a reason. It's more so like I said, the purpose I had every day was just like nice to not worry about all the things going on too much besides myself. It's really narcissistic, and that's what athletes have to be. And that's the privilege I talk about. And I had like the least privilege. I was a tough guy. So like privilege ladder, I was like the lowest you could be. So that's how crazy privileged we are.
Yeah, I definitely am someone who analyzes a lot of times, so that's why like I've gone back into my life and it less about damn, I wish, and living in regret and because there's nothing I would have been able to do.
Right.
It's more
Okay. Right.
just like, oh, that makes sense. Like the way that I've
Gotcha. Gotcha.
like the situations where I was just like, wow, I acted really strange during this time in my life and it's like it makes sense that I was feeling like, it's almost like the worst thing in my life happened and now I can kind of see something similar happening and like the way I react to it is my way of coping and then it has this negative effect where it's like people think, oh my god, Jay is mad at me, and it's more like Jay just has no idea how to handle the situation right now because I don't have the tools. And now later on in life, now that I've like come to realize, oh, I have anxiety, here are the tools that I'm being given now that we've come to realize it's not just I'm weird, it's that this is manifested in my life that it to me I kind of look back at it more like, huh, instead of being saddened by it. I mean,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
before I'd be saddened by it like god, like I would have could save myself so much
Woe is me.
trouble. Yeah.
You went through that phase. And now you're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
looking
yeah,
back.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
reverse
yeah.
engineering
Yeah, yeah,
how it
yeah.
happened.
Mm-hmm. I kind of do that with gender
Gotcha.
identity too, and more just like fascinated by like, wow, if only I had the words.
Since you brought up
And
tools, Jay, I wanted to ask Curtis if he could kind of go a little bit into detail about the tools that he's picked up on how to cope with not just the bipolar, but like literally everything that comes at you in this crazy life.
mm, yeah, I mean, the only thing, to be honest, that if I sit down and really think about it and try to incorporate it is spirituality for me. That was something that has never been a part of my life. My whole upbringing had nothing to do with it. I thought if you thought anything more than, you die and you go on the ground and the worms eat you. I thought if you thought more than that, I was like, you're like weird and a coward. Like, why do you have to live longer in life? That's how ignorant I was. But through my suffering, that's the only way I can make sense of it is that through my like I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, so I believe in like the mystic side, mysticism side. all religions are just rivers leading to the same ocean. The same place that we're all trying to get to is feeling unconditional love and peace and bliss at all times. That's what we all want, and that's what Christians call going to heaven, and that's what I would call merging back into the one through different lifetimes. So the way I can rationalize it, and the biggest tool for me is that, and I already feel it helping, is that I'm here in this lifetime to learn the lessons that I'm here to learn. And I chose this lifetime before I came here in like a soul contract. And I'm here it's not supposed to be fun all the time. It's literally chosen to come to this planet, which is nuts, which is crazy, paradoxical, and scary and amazing, all rolled into one. I'm here to learn. My soul's here to learn, to go through exactly what I'm going through. I'm talking to you both right now on having a tough day, and I'm supposed to rise to love, rise to peace, rise to higher things than to get sucked down the other way. So that's the biggest tool for me, hands down. That's the foundation of everything, and that's what keeps me going. Because
I hope.
also I know that, wait, before I jump in, because also I know that my dad killed himself. So I know that, I'm sorry, no, I paused, you're good. I know that to kill yourself just means you have to just start over again in a shittier situation. That's what I believe. It's wheel of samsara. So I'm not going nowhere. No matter how bad it gets, I'm not going anywhere. It's just, I just got to make the most of this time I have. Because if not, I'm going to have to just do it again anyway. So why press the reset button and start over? That's the way I look at it.
I just wanted to say, I hope that when you're having tough days like today, and you're trying to get to this place of peace, I guess, just a little bit for the day. I hope you're still being patient with yourself and gentle, because putting that pressure on yourself does make it a little bit harder to get to that point you're trying to get to. And it's really important. Like I try to tell this to all my friends who are going through it, because like I've told you my story. You know what I've been through recently. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it would take me a lot of work to get to a place where I could just sit there and like not think. I don't even know if I would have able to do it, right? But being gentle and patient, and just like not telling yourself you're the worst person for not being able to relax and not doing any like these things. It's hard, just be kind.
Yeah, well, just being an athlete, you're just always pushing and trying to be better, trying to be
Right.
better. But I definitely know that that's not one of these types of things. And I may not reach that point and perfect line everything in this lifetime. And maybe I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to pick up the lessons that I'm supposed to learn in this one and enjoy it as much as I can to the best of my ability. So it's like it's the hardest thing in life. It's to put as much effort into something as you can, but not be attached to the outcome. That is like the epitome of the human experience. It's the hardest thing to do. The best athletes are the guys that go out and play just for the fun of it, and wherever the chips fall, they're like, hey, awesome. That allows them to play free. That allows them they're not attached to the sport. They're not attached to what they do. The executive that goes to run a business, he knows that he can detach from it. Performance will do well, performance will do poorly. I can go home to my family and I'm grounded. It's having that extreme effort, but also at the same time, extreme detachment. That's the hardest thing. So that's the middle way they call it, Tao, the Tao, whatever. It's all about being kind of in the middle, and that's what we would call is balance. So just trying to find that balance.
That's a hard one. Not to get
It's the
attached.
hardest. It's the
I
hardest thing
struggle
ever.
so hard with that.
Well, that's what we're like. If you play GT, I always like this analogy. If you play Grand Theft Auto and you get like the cheat codes from the internet and fly whatever plane you want and all that stuff, that's not fun. It's fun for like 5 minutes, right? You want to play the game where it's hard. You want to play the game where it's challenging, because then you can rise to figure it out, get better, and progress. So we're here to do that. But when we chose to come here, our brains got wiped, because why would we? If you knew for a fact you're here to just la 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 have fun, you'd be in the bliss all the time. No, we're supposed to be attached. We're attached and think that this voice in our head is our own little God, and we just think that we're so special. Why should anything ever happen to me? Oh gosh, woe is me. It's like we're not that special, but at the same time, we're so special.
Excuse
So
me, I'm very
it's
special.
it's 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 the balance of that. It's the balance of that. It's wild, but that's the
Yeah.
whole point, to be attached. So don't be hard on yourself for that either.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
amazing. I don't know what you're talking about.
Simmer down, Jace.
Please, okay? I'm gonna burn my stars bright. I did want to kind of just like when I first started my mental health journey, I remember I got to a good spot and then I was talking to my psychiatrist and I asked him, I want to wean off of, the medication. And it took a couple of sit downs with him because he really wanted to be sure it was like the best choice for me. And I really appreciate it. It was really comforting to know that he was listening to me, but it was also making sure that he was doing his job by making sure he doesn't just like, oh, the patient just wants to get off their meds. Like, I'll just go ahead and do that. They say they're fine. And then we came to a compromise where he said he would take me off of like the daily one and he would give me something that if I felt like I was getting back to that point, like you've got like an as needed to just kind of like calm you down and everything like that, which I really appreciated because yeah, because just like the journey after that, I started realizing that like I would have huge anxiety, depression flare ups when something you guys had mentioned like a bit ago where you, how did you put it? Like you have this goal and then you just like give yourself no grace. You're just like, I've got to just accomplish it. And like, for me, that was a coping mechanism and to appear like nothing is wrong. Like I'm successful. I can achieve things. Like there's nothing to see here. And when you can't uphold that mask, even if you don't want it anymore, it's like you almost find yourself in a situation where it's like, but if I don't achieve it, what will that say about me? Like people will start asking questions and like to the point where I drive myself into the ground and like, and I flare up all over again and find myself like needing to go back and getting back on some kind of plan. And even even all those years later, it's like there's yet another thing we have to tackle. We're constantly having to rethink what we're doing and not be afraid that something doesn't work out. It's like that's the whole other layer to it as well. And like I remember like recently I was talking about this for a totally unrelated thing and I just said like the thing I find so frustrating for my own experiences when I open up to people and then they go, well, I mean, just do this, or like, well,
Yeah.
don't be so anxious. And it's like,
Yeah, that fixes everything.
like,
Thank you. Why didn't I think of
Yeah,
that? So silly.
yeah,
So silly.
it's if that's think I've been that person to people before, no doubt about it. I'm trying to work on that. It's when you think you have everything figured out, but I think everybody just wants people to listen. That's why support groups and bipolar groups, it doesn't even matter if any says anything back to you, just to talk and have other humans there and they just nod and go, yep. That's all we need sometimes. People usually ask for help when they want a specific question.
Yeah.
So I've learned to just shut my mouth and just go with it. But I want to touch on something you did say is how it really resonates with me because it's so true. You said basically like, we achieve something or not, but kind of when you get someplace, it's always like we kind of think, oh, we got it, we're done now. It's like, no. It never stops. That's the whole point. That's if it was over, you're in that heaven, you're immersed back into God, you're enlightened, whatever. There's a book and a psychiatrist, and he's got a thing on Netflix produced by Jonah Hill, who's one of his clients. So he's like the psychiatrist shrink, celebrity shrink in Hollywood, and he's this really crass New Yorker with Parkinson's, and he doesn't give a shit. And he swears. He's so funny. His name's Phil Stutz. And he just says, if you don't want to get on board with these three things, you're screwed. He used a different word. He said, you're going to experience in this lifetime constant work, uncertainty, and pain. He's like, if you don't want to agree to that, it's not going to be fun. And that's just the way it is. Like, so it's you get somewhere, it's like, oh, what's the next mountain to climb? You always see those inspirational things. You climb one, you just look up and there's the next one. That's just, that's it. And it's embracing that struggle. That's the human condition, to embrace that struggle. And it's not supposed to be easy. And you just kind of go, yep, that too. Oh, yep, that too. Oh, anxiety. Yep, that too today. Great. Let's go. That's the only way to approach it. And earlier today, I haven't been doing it, but then when I speak to you guys and you go through it again in your head with other people, you're like, oh yeah, so I'm gonna get off the phone and be like, all right, back to grammar, that too, woohoo, fun stuff, whatever it is. Like I got 6.5, 7 years of school to go, just starting, great, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned support groups. So I kind of want to nudge the conversation over. Uh, how do I start this? Okay, I'll be a little bit more vulnerable and transparent here. Trigger warning to anyone listening, because of some of the things I may talk about. So, when we reconnected back in March, you actually reached out at a very interesting time in my life. When we had that phone call, I don't know if you remember, Curtis. I had entered this really angry space, and I had just gotten off a call with Jay and Drew. They were trying to calm me down, but I was in this state of rage, and talking to you helped a bit. And then, a couple of days later, I actually was triggered through I had a traumatic trigger. And then I started having thoughts of harming myself. And it got really bad. And I was talking to my therapist. Like, I think I had a therapy session with my therapist 3 times in 1 week. Like, it was getting bad. I was spiraling. And eventually I ended up having to get my doctors involved. And then she told my current therapist told me to get another therapist because she's not local. I had to get a local therapist. And then eventually I got my parents involved, and like I was just getting all of my friends involved in what was going on to let them know, hey, I'm not in a good place. I need help. What I ended up doing on top of all of that, and getting medication prescribed to me, I never took it, but I did get it prescribed to me, which is a big deal for me. I did start going to support groups, not just one, but two. And I found these really nice, like, queer spaces where I could talk. And one of them specifically was so welcoming and open. Like my very first session there, I was not in a good place. And they allowed me to speak. Held the, they gave me the floor basically. And I was able to say a bit about where I was. I was like sobbing, and they were able to give me perspectives from like the other side of the things I was experiencing. Like, hey, I know you're feeling this. I was on the other side of that. It has nothing to do with you. Just, this is how people go about certain things. And it started helping, right? All of this to say, I think it's really important to build community when you're going through really hard times and lean on the people closest to you. Like you right now, you move back in with your mom because that's your support system. She's going to be there for you through whatever. I did the same thing like a couple years ago when I lost my job. I had to move back home. I was going through it, and my parents, my support system, like, I'm such a family oriented person. Like, just being around family really helps like ground me. Um, and yeah, I don't know if you want to go ahead and talk to that as well. Your support groups, your support systems, and all that.
Yeah, for sure. I had one where I was living in the US that I'm still connected to. Probably need to make sure I go on Monday nights. But I kind of go intermittently. But my mom, yeah, she's the best, But there's double-edged sword. You feel guilty, she's not seeing you happy or going through stuff. So, but you just try to stick together through it. And then I'm fortunate with just again the privilege, a hockey player name can call lots of people and vent. I'm very privileged that way, and I know that just a lot of people will just want to this be an ear for me, and I'm very lucky to have that. So just try to. I seem to always do my best if I have a phone call in a day. To be honest, if I can have a phone call with someone that has bipolar or has some connection to me, it's gonna help me point blank. It's just gonna pull me out of my own head and um, make us feel like we're not alone. We can get so that's the whole thing. We get isolated. That's the slippery slope of thinking you're in the sun. It's like literally every human on this planet is addicted to their little voice in their head too, and going through all their problems and stuff. Like we're all in it together. And I didn't really know what the word compassion was before I got spiritual, because that's really the compassion, right? So that's what you were speaking to a bit there, Ness. That's those people in those groups are telling you, hey, that's just how people act. That's just how people are going to be. It has nothing to do with you, because it truly doesn't have anything to do with us. Anybody acting out of anything other than love, peace, um, prosperity, just like good vibes, is struggling. They are projecting the inner things that are going on in them. It's just what bullies don't hurt people, they're hurt people. They're hurting themselves. So that's a big thing to remember for me. So just that we're all in it together, and reach out to as many people as you can, because you don't know if you're struggling and you call someone, you don't know if they're struggling too. They might just be in here, but next thing you know, like, they don't even tell you they're struggling, but hearing you going through it, they get off the phone and didn't even have to say I'm going through anything. And then they're like, they feel better too. It's just people helping people. It's always worth picking up the phone. It's always worth going to talk to people.
Yeah. Funny you should mention that, because me and one of my best friends this morning, we were texting about something, and I reached out to her first because, something was going on in my life, and she shared what was going on in her life, because she was like, wow, well, I think it'll be helpful for me to kind of share something that's related to what you're going through, and then also we can kind of like, find comfort with one another. And with you guys talking about like social, like help groups and things like that, like one of the last times I like really hit ground bottom and had to be hospitalized for a little bit, it just almost felt like that was meant to be, like that was going to be like the gift I needed, or like the to get out of the cycle, because the toxic coping mechanisms that I had developed over time was again something that I revisited 4 years after I had already like realized, oh, this is what I do, only to do it again, only to not realize you're doing it again. And then that fun little voice in your head is like not helping you at all, and you're denying what other people are saying to you. And but that time that I spent, it was helpful to kind of get away from, even, as well-meaning as your friends are. You mentioned, Kurtis, it's like, even though it's the best for you to be back home with your mom, you kind of felt guilty about it, because you're probably thinking, well, why you like, I should be able to stand on my own 2 feet, and why do I have to like, ask her for help, or whatever it is, that your brain might be telling you. Like, I was doing the same thing where my friends are helping me, but then I'm also like feeling guilty that they're helping me. Like, why am I burdening you with this? But to be able to take myself out of that situation for a bit, to admit that I need help, and have that compassion for myself that like, no, you need to. And even then, when I first got there, I was still denying it. It was like it was a huge process, but it was helpful to be around other people who were going through something. You didn't feel any judgment. They're like, hey, I hope you're having a good day today. No judgment. We're all kind of going through something. And you feel safe to not feel burdened to like sit down next to someone and just sit there, and you may not have to say anything to one another, to just find that like comfort. And then finally there was this woman, she was like the counselor or something like that. She like we had to have like every other day we had to sit down with her or something like that. And even then I was just like, can someone just like get me the right medication so I can get out of here? Like, that to me felt like what needed to happen, where I was just like, well, we just haven't found the right medication to get my brain to like stop being difficult. I remember I was talking to her about something, and she made me realize that like, you don't actually want to finish your master's right now. Because I kept telling her like, I just need to get out of here. So, because the more time I spend here, the less time I have to get ready to go back for the next semester of my master's. And that was like what I was thinking about the whole time. And I'm like, this is a pain in the butt to be here. I'm just here for you to like figure it out. And it's like, well, we haven't even addressed the problem. You just think you're just looking for like some quick solution. And finally, she made me realize that, like, I don't actually want this right now. And I've convinced myself that I need to finish it for everything to set itself back in place. When really I have to step back from it, admit that I can't do this right now, and just let 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 the unknown like unfold. And which is like the worst thing you could tell me, because like I still do it nowadays, and I've accepted that some aspects of it I just need, just because that's just my personality. I like structure. I don't like being thrown out into the deep end, but I can't go so much to the extreme of it where like the littlest thing to go wrong will fuck up my entire world. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if everything doesn't go as planned. And it's like finding that balance. We keep talking, again and again about how it's like, just because you get the one thing at the very beginning, it doesn't resolve everything. Like, you have to constantly revisit it, rebalance, learn more things about, how you should go about your life. And at least now I can look at aspects like that of my life, and I can be grateful for them versus feeling like, God, that was a really terrible time in my life and that's so embarrassing. And now I'm happy to talk about it, because I'm like, yeah, that did happen.
Look at me now.
Try, fail. That's just
Ooh,
how it is. And it's like, you forget, oh, forgot again. No, I got it again. No, I forgot it again. It's
Slip right back into
so,
old habits.
yeah, it's like you have a scab and you pick it. What do you think's going to happen? It's going to bleed. It's going to create more of a scar. Scab comes back. You already know what's going to happen. You have a compulsion to pick it. Are you going to pick it again? Oh, yeah, you pick it again. That's literally what it is. That's how I view it, and I hate it. But it's just like, you just got to not
self-sabotage.
pick that scab, man. Don't self-sabotage. You've done this how many times? When are you going to learn?
Eventually. You'll get there eventually. It's so hard though. But as like Jay had mentioned, I think it's important to get to a point where you can ask for help, even if it's like friends, right? It doesn't have to be professional help all the time. Get it if you need it, if you have the resources. I'm not saying don't. I'm saying, but if you feel like you need to reach out to someone to talk to, I feel like there's this sort of I don't know the word, but like there's always something that holds people back because either they're
Ego.
embarrassed, they're ashamed, they don't want to be a burden. It's like, oh, they won't have time for me. But honestly, the best thing you can do is reach out. People want to help. Like, people love you. The people in your life love you and want to help you get out of these terrible situations. And I feel like more people need to hear this, because it's like they either they don't know it, or they just it's nice to hear out loud. Like, your people, the circle you're creating, they want your happiness. Like, they want what's best for you, and you shouldn't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. That's something that I literally just learned this year. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just say, oh, I'm busy right now, and you just call the next person on the list. Like,
right,
it's okay, move it along.
right.
I think that's an important point to also, like, there's people who are also going through something else in their lives and they may not have a moment, but just letting them know, hey, I'm sorry you're going through this right now. I can't talk to you at the moment, but just like ways, because like I struggle with that as well, where it's like, I just don't like, I realize if I give someone my time right now, it's going to affect my mental health because I'm going through something. So where do you find that balance? Also wanted to put in there that if there's people who just flat out are just pretending to be your friend and they don't actually care, they're only there for you when it's convenient, you cut them out.
Yeah, because it's nobody's gonna say like, "Hey, I don't want to be there for you." But yeah, there's gonna be times when like not many people are that upfront, or should they probably be? But yeah, you're just like, "Oh, okay, like no worries. Like I gotta just, you know, who can I plug into next? Who can I plug into next?" But our egos get involved and we get upset, and that definitely is a real thing too.
I have big feelings. Like, don't hurt my feelings.
She will cry. She will
I will
cry.
cry. And I'll let you know about it. Wow, Jay's a bully. Just kidding.
Jay's just honest, but okay. Would you rather honesty or beating around the
Always.
bush? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll come to
It's just how
appreciate
you do
me.
it. I guess it's how you do it, right? It's how you approach it. You approach it from a place of compassion, honesty, or a place of love, honesty. Just like, hey, just like this ain't working for me. So just nothing to do with you or me. It's just like the vibes off, whatever, like all the best to you.
See, and that's another issue that I had, like that I've had to work on is being more upfront with people. Like people would be like, "You don't actually
I
want
have
to
no
do
problem.
that, yet you can't say no." I was like a yes person for so long before I realized that's actually affecting me in a negative way. And it's like,
And them.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard. But you learn. We're
That's
learning.
life. We're learning.
Ah. How we feeling?
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a deep one, but that's good. These are the conversations that help me. So I don't know about you guys.
Always.
Always. Yeah.
One last topic on the mental health things, kind of. I think I saw one of your stories. You had mentioned that you are, what's the word? Taking advantage of the NHLPA, right?
Mm,
While you still have access to it. Can you kind of
mm.
speak on like what that process is kind of like? Because like as a fan, like we hear about it, but we don't know any details.
Yeah, for whatever amount of games I played, which weren't many, I kind of just had a weird crossing of paths with Jay Harrison, who's one of the people that runs the program to help players transition and like the player assistance thing after you're done playing. So I have 5 years. I guess I'm 2.5 years into it, 2.5 years into it. I've got mental health coverage, for psychiatry and psychologists. And then they have like a program where a company helps you like do career tests and talk with you and help you get in rooms to talk to people and try to figure out what you want to do. So yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know, probably guys who play a lot longer than me get it covered and get it a lot longer than I do, but I was just happy to have anything, to be completely honest. So yeah,
Yeah.
they do. I think they do a pretty good job. Obviously, the vast amount of hockey players don't. Like we're talking about a couple of guys who get NHL games can access this, but you're talking about the guys in the East Coast who are making like $20,000 that are just like hating everything, and they come out and they have to just work a job and something. Like they have no resources. They have the PHPA. I think they meet like once a week and they talk about things, but it's very minimal. So I'm very fortunate that I got that because I know a lot of guys don't.
Good. Thank you. I've been
Hmm.
curious. Okay, Jay, you can switch gears if you want.
Hockey time.
Um, I mean, as you know, the Sharks are going through a rebuild, so it's a different perspective to have where we're less concerned about like making the playoffs next season to more like interested in like the up and comings and like that whole side of it. But like I guess in general to start out, are you following anything hockey related? Okay.
Always.
I can't help it. Like
Yeah.
it's just like anything I hear just goes is absorbed and stuck in
Yeah.
my head just because I did it for so long, right? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't follow too much, but enough where I know what's going on.
Okay. So like right now, I mean, we just found out yesterday that Macklin Celebrini signed the entry level contract. So it is him on top of Will Smith, on top of all the other guys that were drafted like really in the last 2 years, and then whoever's like hasn't met the guillotine that is Mike Greer. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time for the Bay. Like they're almost sold out for the like the opening game. I know like Jumbo's retirement. Well, that I think that was always going to be sold out. But like, there's a lot happening, and I guess from we can only see it from a fan perspective. We don't know what kind of like the vibes or the whole process of that is. But like, can you kind of give us like a perspective, just like being a young prospect coming in through development and like the training camp kind of experience?
Yeah, well, I always played on teams that were rebuilding because that was my job, was to protect all like the young guys. So I never really played on like good teams. So I think I have a good perspective, and yeah, I can't speak from what it's like for Macklin, but like obviously he's a super mature, super talented player, and he felt like this is the place to be for now. But I just think the biggest win was obviously getting the first pick, but the head coach Wazowski. I think that was really really smart. I played against him in the minors. He was a coach of the Chicago team that won the Calder Cup, and I just think he's the perfect type of coach. That's like that's a in that John Cooper-ish type vein of it's like he's like a new style coach, but he'll still be hard on guys. That's the vibe I got. So I think that's awesome for the young players there. They need that kind of guy. They didn't need the kind of coach that they had before, that's for sure. They need the new school mentality. And yeah, I think it's going to be extremely challenging. It's going to be really tough for a while, but I think those guys are just happy to be in the NHL. They're going to be just happy to be putting on that jersey and getting into the lifestyles. The key is, though, is to not accept winning. But I think it's important you have somebody like Ferraro there, Couture there. Well, they'll keep the tempo to be like, hey, like we suck and it's not okay. And we know we suck, but we know it's still not okay. We're not going to get comfortable with this. So I think that's important.
Nessa's freaking cheesing because Ryan Rosowski is she's the president of
I'm
that fan
so
club.
stoked. You just like made me even more excited because look, I don't know, you probably don't know this, but so like back when they first hired David Quinn, or before they hired David Quinn as head coach, like Warsawski was up for that job as well, and we would talk about it on the pod, like I hope they hire him because it'd be like a new perspective, blah blah blah. And then so when they finally hired him this year, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna happen. But the way you just described him, I'm so excited. Like, I haven't been excited about this team in a while, so
it was the right timing because he wouldn't have been good with them last year. Like they needed somebody to kind of take one for the team, which
No
Quinn
one was
did,
going
which
to be
sucks.
good
But
for them.
right,
It was
but hey,
just bad.
right, he got paid. He got paid. I'm sure he's still getting paid, so he got something out of it. But yeah, as soon as they got Celebrini, they knew they needed a coach like Warzowski who's worked with young players and is a younger guy and can relate to the new style of hockey. So yeah, you should be real pumped. I think he's going to be there for a long time, like the whole way back to the top.
don't get me too excited.
Just their brain is just ballooning at this point.
Oh no.
It's going to be fascinating. Barclay Goodrow had you on not his team list to come back, but he's there. So
my God, the drama.
Come on. He's getting paid 3.9. He's back with his buddy Couture, I'm sure. I'm sure he's gonna get to play more. I'm sure he's gonna have a blast. And I should have included him in the group that won't be happy with not winning, with him and Toffoli as well. So I think I think it's a good situation. They should a lot more excited to go into that team this year than last year. Last year was just that's what you
Nobody
got to
wanted
go
to sign
through.
We lived it. We lived it.
That's what you had to go through to get the player that you did, and now you have potentially that Will Smith guy's fourth overall. You potentially have your Taves Crosby, or wow, Taves Kane and Crosby Malkin. You have your double-headed monster now.
Wow, don't get me so excited. Look. I can't, like, we've been going through it as Sharks fans the past I don't know how many years now. And like we were excited when we got Will Smith last year. It's like, okay, we're starting to see all these prospects. This guy probably the highest draft pick we'll get in a minute. But then last season happened. We're like, all right, we're gonna get something a little higher, hopefully. And then we got number one for the first time ever in franchise history. Like, we're stoked. And then like with the new head coach and then all these off-season signings, like I'm excited for Wallman to come here. Toffoli,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, yeah, it's an exciting. I'm excited for next season.
Dude, freaking Wallman. The first I ever heard about him was that TikTok reel. I'm like, we need those vibes here. I'm sold.
He's a goofy guy. I know him, and he's so talented. Like we'd be at summer skates with a lot of good NHLers, and everybody's like, geez. Like his skating is insane. His hands are, and he should be a D-man almost. He's so skilled. So I think he's going to be all over the ice. They're going to have to make him play some he's a really good defenseman too, but he's going to be just wheeling and dealing everywhere. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
We'll do the reverse Brent Burns on him.
I'm excited to see how him and Ferraro hit it off
Oh,
with their
I'm sure they're
goofiness.
boys already. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
Oh my
sure. Two
God.
Toronto guys. Oh, yeah.
If Couture is good and well to be in the locker room, he'll just be like, shut up.
It's actually like that's such an understatement, but he'll just Ferraro never stops laughing. Like he's literally like exactly what you think times 10 in the locker room. Like I
I
always say,
love
it's
it.
just like his laugh is so distinct too. You could hear it from the other side of like the room. It's so ridiculous. It's so awesome. It's amazing. So infectious.
The laughing along with the wheezing.
Oh yeah, it's just incredible. It's honestly incredible. It's special dude.
Good vibes.
Oh, you've got
Yeah,
us so
man,
hyped
that's
now. We're so excited.
yeah. I think you guys really should be. Obviously, hopefully they can play some better goal D for the goalies. This is tough one. They're two good goalies. They just gotta play some better D for them so they can at least like try to survive.
Did you see anything related to that? I think it was against the Oilers. They had Cooley in net. I think it was the last game of the season. And it's like, please, something. The poor kid is and his like post game interviews were like, bro, no, did you see? They helped you zero.
Yeah, but that's almost good for him in his career because he got to show what he could do and get a good contract this year in the offseason. So he probably was like, bring it on. I want like 100 shots.
I think it was a little overkill. You could see it in his body language by like the eighth goal. He's like pancaked on the ice. And it's like, bro is just like, how many more minutes do I have to be out on the ice?
Hey, try his best with no attachment to the outcome. Keep getting up. Keep
Yep.
keep trying. That's what you got
Yep.
to do. I mean, talk about his mind and mentality
Yeah.
a goalie has to have. Whew,
What was
What
that
was it?
famous
What's his
quote?
famous quote? Nothing matters and we all
Nothing
die.
matters.
that's it. That's it. He went a little too far the non-attached way there. But yeah,
Bro went
that's the truth.
viral with that.
Oh,
That went
That's the
good.
truth,
outside the
though.
scope of the fan base. Everyone's like, what?
Yeah, that's the mentality. I'm telling you, that's the mentality. If I played again, I would have that mentality. I'd be saying
No,
stuff like
I
that
can
all the
see
time.
it.
Yeah, but then the coaches would start being like, "You got to win. This is a winning business. We're not here to just." It's like, dude,
You
doing
can't win
that
all the
is
time.
only gonna make it worse by being like that. It's only gonna make it worse.
Do you still play by chance, like on your own, like pickup games at all?
Nothing,
Are you
not at
staying
all.
away for a reason or just
Yeah,
because?
I just my right wrist is my dominant wrist when I shoot and stuff. So it's like it already hurts on its own. I don't want to get it like more fired up and stuff. That's why I'm not coaching too. I would have considered coaching my local junior A or OHL team that I live in town with where I played because my mom moved up here. They fired the whole coaching staff, and I just felt like being an assistant coach, you're pretty much like a player. Like you have to do all like the drills, push the pucks, shoot pucks for tips. You have to shoot them hard. You have to pass at a high level. Like I was just like, I don't want to be like in pain all day every day. So tough one there. But yeah, it's just not worth the pain in day to day life.
That makes sense.
I don't need any more meds.
I feel that.
We still have 3 months, so we see like anything. Like they gave us a little bit of development camp and then nothing now. We're on a high. It's gonna be good.
Don't get your it'll be good, but don't get your
Oh no.
hopes up
Like
at all.
I'm
Okay.
I'm
We're
texting,
realists
joking with
over
friends,
here.
being like, can't wait to be 31st in the standings next season. We're
Better than
pretty
last
level.
year.
We're pretty realistic here on this pod.
Yeah,
We're
maybe like 25. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be
Get
nice.
to
That's higher than
25,
I
that'd
would
be
have
nice.
thought.
ooh.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know.
No, I'm on the 5-year plan to even sniff at anything like worth
That's
talking
true.
about. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Look at Draisaitl, look how long it took Draisaitl and McDavid, and they're probably going to end up being a better combination than Matt Celebrini and Smith, but who knows? But it still took them a long time, right?
10 years to get to the finals.
Right.
I don't want that.
And
That's
with
too long.
no, that's quite a long time. I don't think that would be good. You know, just to make the playoffs in like you said, 4 or 5 years probably at most. That you better be in the playoffs in 4 years. That's probably a good realistic one.
Yeah,
We'll
we got some good
revisit this
prospects in the
in four
pool.
years.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see.
we'll do this again.
All right. Anything else we wanted to kind of like put out into the world? I don't really know how to kind of conclude
Just
this
sending good vibes
conversation.
and big hugs to everyone.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We're all in it together. We're all in it together.
I guess I should put a disclaimer that this is not mental health advice. This is just us speaking about our journeys and sharing perspectives. If anything kind of rings true to you and maybe you are seeking out professional health or anything, like obviously please go ahead and, whatever's available to you, go ahead and, talk to someone because we can only speak for ourselves and we don't have any sort of professional degrees in that area. So yes, so please keep that in mind. And I mean, as always, thank you, Curtis, for coming on and sharing your journey with us. We're always happy to have you here, and yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it so much. And yes, definitely helped me, made my day better. So thank you.
You're welcome. Glad.
And as always, I am your host, Jay.
And I'm Ness. And this was Curtis. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.